everyone, to another exciting episode of the OKR Q&A Podcast, also known as the OKR Corral, where OKR Insight is the king. I'm your host, Tim Meinhardt, CEO of Atruity, an OKR consultancy headquartered in our nation's capital. In this special episode, we are thrilled to have the opportunity to sit down and talk with Paul Smith. Paul is the Senior Vice President and General Manager for the Public Sector at Red Hat. Paul is one of today's most influential technology leaders. Paul's been the face of Red Hat in the public sector for over a decade and a half. Having won numerous awards and accolades as a technology leader, Paul's vision and innovative approach to leadership has proven itself time and time again. I've had the pleasure of working with Paul and his team over the last 18 months, and I've experienced firsthand Paul's leadership style and his team's devotion to their mission. Everyone, please welcome Paul Smith. So, Paul, welcome to the program, and tell our audience a little bit about yourself and your background.
Well, hey, Tim, and thanks for having me. Sure. I'm very glad to be here, of course. Background, I'm the general manager for the public sector region of Red Hat Incorporated, the world's leading open source software company. So very proud to be here. Been here for 15 years, and I've got a great crew of folks that you know pretty well, sure. And just happy to be here.
Fantastic. You know, Paul, you were there, literally from the start of Red Hat. I remember when you all got started with that. And
yeah, I think so. 15 and a half years certainly isn't the very beginning, but I think it was really the beginning of us becoming an enterprise software company that actually, had an open source development model. So certainly from the very humble beginnings, going back to when this division I was working in was less than 5 people, and now we're well over 600. So, yeah, I guess you could say I was here from the beginning.
It's been quite a journey. So, how did you get started with OKRs? What was the introduction like to you, and how did you find it?
OKRs, or objectives and key results, have been around for a while. So it's one of those things that was kind of like sitting back there, not on the frontal lobe. It's like, yeah, I've heard of that before. I really don't understand what it is. And then Dave X, who's one of the folks on my leadership team, he and I read a lot of books together. We have a little book club. We have a book club, as an example, with our entire group. It's one of our cultural things we do. But he turned me on to this book by John Doerr called Measure What Matters. I was like, oh, okay. So we'll read this because it's just interesting to read new management books, right? But he went down this whole concept of OKRs as a management tool for tracking success. Number one, where is it we want to go? That's the objective. And the key results are a measurement tool for how do we know when we get there, right? So we read that and was like, oh, okay, that was interesting. That was fun. I had come to subsequently find out that our engineering team, at the time run by Paul Cormier, used OKRs as part of their metric for measuring success.
Sure.
So the next thing was, well, what does that mean for us? It was an interesting book, but how does it get manifested in our group? Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, we actually were working with you on other things, and we said, hey, Tim, read this book and see if it makes any sense. And then from there, joint epiphanies, and so we have to make this real, and then we went on that journey together. So
on the journey we went.
Some stuff.
Yeah, it's been a great journey with your organization. Talk a little bit about, maybe share with our audience about some of the challenges that you faced when you decided to walk down this objectives and key results journey.
So a lot of it is just buy-in, right? Mm-hmm. It's getting people to think strategically versus in quarter type of tactics, which is really hard for salespeople because, we're pretty much measured on what we do quarterly and annually, so kind of get in that tunnel vision. But this was like taking a step back and really taking a look at success factors and what that was going to look like. So actually getting the team to say, oh, this is something that could actually benefit me, versus being another readout for Paul to check on, key performance indicators. Right. So that was probably one of the largest challenges front on. How do you differentiate from another kind of QBR type of motion versus something that could be a living document that we're going to review, course correct, and track and say, hey, this is kind of binary, 0 or 1. Did we succeed or not? If we did, great. Then what's the next step? If we didn't, what do we need to change? So it really became something, we turned that challenge into an opportunity, which was this something that was going to mean something, be meaningful to the rank and file as a tool to track their success? And if it was, great, then we've got everybody kind of bought in to what do we define as success at a very high level? And then how does that relate down into my group? And how do we measure that? And does it, so we've got that awareness, we've got that vision, and we've got that joint shared goal, so to speak. So pretty cool stuff.
Absolutely. And you've done this at your sales kickoff meeting. You did it at Kingsmill, and you shared your long-term objectives, the mission statement that we rewrote particularly for your organization. And the feedback that I got and that you got was terrific. Like, people finally saw, hey, we can see this,
Right. Yeah, we really just broke it down into 3 long-term goals, which are really our very high-level objectives. Yeah. One was focused around, financial aspirations, and not in terms of like getting to some number, some Amazonian number, so to speak. Hey, wow. But really, it's really about mind share with customers and getting to that level where we're actually relevant. So we have some objective. One was really around financial aspirations. What does success look like? What do we need to do in terms of market share or wallet share with customers to be a relevant part of their organization? The second one was really around the customer. So we have objectives set up around focusing on customer mission. And are we actually essential to their business, or in my case, to their government agency mission? The third one was really around our associates, our employees. How do we build an organization where we can retain people, help them feel successful, give them a career path, and have all the things in place that actually, give people a good work-life balance? I'm feeling successful. I've got some place to go. I'm contributing. My voice matters. So the really cool thing about that was it's just 3 things. Everybody can relate to it. Everybody understands it. They know what it means at my level. They know what it means at their level, and it's easily articulated. And if you ask anybody in our group, what success looks like, I would almost guarantee you they could talk to one of all or 3 of all those objectives at some level of relevance at what they're doing in their agency or what they're doing with their other customers.
Yeah, absolutely. And to dovetail on that, I was going to ask you, Paul, what do you think has been your greatest success with OKRs?
Well, at a very high level, the challenge became the success, right? We've got the entire organization doing it. 3 levels of management, some 56, almost 60 people are actually involved on a monthly basis and actually reading this out to their team. So that buy-in is really there. That's hugely successful because now they're part of the process. And especially in this time of COVID, when we're doing a lot of work from home, it actually is another instrument for us to actually maintain communication and make sure that we're on track. And there's real excitement around it, which has fascinated me. It was actually a little bit of a surprise as to how much people were as or more excited than I was about using this tool.
Well, it has been exciting, and when the call comes out to somebody that, hey, we added you to the OKR list, they were so excited. I can't wait to be a part of it. Yeah. It's fantastic, and and the collaboration with everybody as they help develop each other's objectives and key results for the quarter also led to that anticipation that would they be next in line, and as we slowly move this throughout your organization. How about advice for a second, Paul? You and I have been doing this now for 1.5 years or more, and yet there are folks out there that say, well, I don't know, I got a lot of things on our plate. What advice would you begin to walk them through or give them if an organization was considering something like objectives and key results?
Yeah, well, we rely a lot on our culture here at Red Hat, and open source culture has a couple of tenets that really play well in this process, which is about collaboration, it's about transparency, it's about participation. So the advice I would give is, when you have a book like John Doerr's book, which is actually based on all the concepts that Andy Grove built at Intel
Right.
decades ago, but when you have this book that everybody will read into and actually buy into, you have this shared language. So you have a shared communication tool. And then by virtue of creating these OKRs together, you've created a collaboration. You've created transparency in terms of how do we define success? How do we know when we've been successful? And you've actually contributed to this whole concept of meritocracy, where folks actually know exactly what contributions they're making to the greater good, right? So the advice I give is read the book, number one, create that kind of shared language, and then start in small groups. And it will grow from there. It'll kind of grow in a natural type of way. And don't be afraid of failure. Little failures will happen, and they're learning points for everyone. So a catastrophic failure is bad, but these little failures are actually points of learning. So just be tolerant of that. Be a little bit patient with the process. It will take on a life of its own from the bottom up. Once folks, I believe, really feel like, well, this is really helping me organize in a way that I didn't think of before. So there's a lot of concepts in this that have been out there for a long time. This is just kind of a neat package to organize it and to institutionalize a way to communicate.
Yeah, terrific. Okay, I'm going to have two small last questions. First one, a burning question that you had about OKRs, and what answer did you find?
Yeah, well, I talked to that a little bit, which was, will this add value to the lives of the people that are actually participating? Not to, so many times when we get involved in some systems, the very beginning days of CRMs, right? Customer relationship management tools. If they're not used to their full extent, salespeople will think, well, this is just a forecasting tool for upper management. And OKRs, if not, deployed correctly, could look and feel like that. So when it becomes an instrument for the folks actually using it to really figure out where they want to go and how they're going to get there, then it just kind of bubbles up. So the burning question was, will the folks in my charge, I'm careful how I say that too, not that I'm in charge of, but that I give care and love and feeding to, will they actually find real value in this for themselves? Right. The answer was yes.
Yes. All right, so I asked you, I said, any last bit of insight that you'd like to be able to provide our audience with regards to objectives and key results?
After we first got into the book Measure What Matters, I did a little bit more homework on, the origins of this whole concept. And it, was really born out of Andy Grove and his engineering organization called Intel. So, and really out of, he codified that too in high output management, which was written a long time ago. But what really kind of worked for me was, this is kind of a science. I mean, there's an art, of course, but this is kind of a science. These are proven types of ways to really make things simplified so that it's clearly understood up and down the organization as to what we want to do. And by fact that our engineering organization was using it to drive real complex, product management issues in the industry and so forth, and Andy Grove was using it, and we built a very successful and great culture type of organization. I said, why wouldn't I use this? Why wouldn't I use this in a sales model as well, and bring some science into the process, which people could understand and really appreciate.
Yeah, that visibility aspect of it, Paul, where everybody can see what everybody's doing.
Yeah.
conversations changed. And we see that even at your upper level in your management team.
Oh, right on. I mean, that transparency